on, but then I envisioned myself sort of tumbling over sideways and someone needing to prop me up, so I decided to forego that, and I see that I'm a bit shorter than most people out here. It has been a journey, and I don't just mean the last 5 years. I decided to become a teacher when I was approximately 7 years old in 2nd grade, and I knew that my 2nd grade teacher was Mrs. King, and she was nice, and I wanted to be nice when I grew up. So I decided then that I would become a teacher, and I had no idea really what that meant besides that I needed to be nice. And then somewhere along the way, I decided that I wanted to be a high school teacher. And I don't know when that moment was. People always ask us, especially this year, you know, we meet new sort of faculty places, and they're like, oh, so what made you want to get into teaching, and like, why do you want to teach high school? And I'm always like, I don't know. That's a terrible answer. I'm supposed to have some great inspirational story, and I don't. But, so I came from being in grade 2 and wanting to be nice when I grew up, which I may or may not have succeeded at, we'll see, to then arriving here at university and deciding, okay, I'm going to actually pursue this as my degree. And like Nadine said, we all went through the classes, we went through the practicums, we got the theory, we know how to do chapter summaries, which was kind of helpful when planning mini lectures in class, but we know how to write reflections, but I never actually knew while going through those classes whether or not I liked teaching. I knew I liked the classes, and I knew that when I envisioned myself there in the classroom with the kids, that it seemed like sort of a positive thing in my mind. But you don't have any real concrete knowledge of whether or not you actually enjoy it. So then we do these little once-a-week practicums, which are just so fun. You go and get to be a stranger in someone's classroom once a week, and you know, for me, it was like grade 3 and grade 4, and so okay, I learned I don't like grade 3 and 4 necessarily. Lots of people like it, but when they start to cry on the very first time that I've met them, then I get really uncomfortable, and it's just a terrible experience. I mean, but other people are very gifted for that. Just cry with the tears. Then we get to classroom management, and we have to videotape ourselves teaching a lesson to our peers. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to see, you know, if I'm actually good at this, or if I like teaching. So I taught the lesson, and then later we're watching the video, and I could do nothing except just hit my head on the desk because I'm holding the whiteboard marker and my lesson notes in this hand, and I'm walking around like this. I don't remember doing that when I was teaching the lesson, but apparently I was. And so I'm sitting there watching it, and I cannot be a teacher. This is terrible. They will laugh at me, and those weird hip juts that I'm doing while I'm walking are just very distracting. They won't learn anything. So I figured, like, I am not going to be good at this. This is going to be awful. Then we get to the start of this year, and I'm so nervous. I probably felt like I feel right now before I was teaching my first lesson, because I went up to the front of the class and I was like, okay, well, I'm Miss Mouse. Here are some pictures of my summer and my spring. So now, and I don't even think they can hear me. Well, you know, talking about this new microphone system, I definitely needed that on the first day, because I'm fairly certain they all looked at me like this. And then I was like, yeah, it was great to meet you guys. And they're like, okay, she's a weirdo. I don't want to come to class tomorrow because it's going to be boring, and we'll have to hear her, and she'll make us read the whole time or something, and you know, do a chapter summary. I was so grateful when I finally reached the point where I was driving home from school, and I was smiling because the day went well. I felt like I enjoyed what I was doing, and I remember the exact conversation I had with my parents when I finally had this sort of moment of transcendence, and I was like, I like teaching. I like doing this. The thing that I spent the last 15 years preparing to do, I actually enjoy doing. This is such a relief that I didn't waste all that time and money. I remember calling my mom and saying, I had the greatest day today. And she was like, oh, what happened? Did you meet a cute boy or something? No, it's actually something kind of serious, which I know is, you know, a little bit weird. I don't normally come out with those, you know, deep thoughts, but okay, that was so good. I have deep thoughts all the time. And I was like, I had a good day teaching, and I liked it. I think that maybe, you know, all of those classes I took and all of those years of watching my my teachers and, you know, trying to respect them is starting to pay off. I actually am, you know, doing the thing that I think I want to do. And she was like, oh, this is so great. Let me go get your dad. You can tell him. And then, you know, there was a less enthusiastic version of the same story. Probably much like the way I'm telling it to you guys now. But it was the first real time in my life, and here's another thought, where I actually could look back and see that God had been directing me to the place where I am supposed to be. And I didn't notice, we rarely notice at the time, oh, hey, I feel God is directing me right now. This is great. You know, I can't even point out the moment when I decided I wanted to be a high school teacher. But there must have been some time where he kind of, you know, like whispered in my ear when I was sleeping or something, teach high school, not elementary. And that was before I even met the grade 3 that cried. So it was the first sort of moment where I could look back and say, like, my life has had purpose, and now it will continue to have purpose because I've somehow chosen, either intentionally or unintentionally, to be involved in a profession that's not just a job and it's not just a career, but it's a calling. And we've talked about that so much this year, especially with Bruce, about how this group is unique in the fact that we, you know, didn't look at the course timetable and go, okay, what's going to be kind of easy and what will I get paid well to do? You know, we feel that there's something in us that lends us to this profession and that we have something that's valuable to give to them. And it is a calling. It's not just, you know, move up north and get a great paycheck. I'm just kidding. It's actually things that we feel passionate about and that we've been gifted to do. I just love you so dearly. And so I think that is the greatest thing I learned this year. I learned lots of lessons about assessment and classroom management and all of that. There was growth in a lot of areas, though Bruce was always telling me that I was far too hard on myself. But there was growth there. I'm acknowledging that. But that, I think, is the most important thing that I learned personally, and I'm sure that lots of you had the same experience where you finally were like, wow, it's such a relief to be good at this thing that we have been pouring our lives into for the last few years and getting to actually contribute to a classroom community and meet people and form those relationships more than once a week and know why that child is crying instead of just thinking that it was your fault.